Hi, today I wanted to discuss prophecy. Prophecy is a very big part of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and how I grew up. The Adventist Church wouldn't be the Adventist Church unless we had prophecy. And way back in the day, some of the Millerites moved on and some of the Millerites could not move on. They just couldn't say, hey, we're wrong. And what they came up with is no, 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 the math is right. We just got the event wrong. Now, let me sidestep. As long as there have been humans, there have been medical conditions and due to mutations or things, and even now, it's only recently that we've started learning about mental health conditions. And in the 1820s and 30s, they didn't really understand epilepsy or brain injuries. They just didn't understand. Um, so when Ellen White was in whatever meeting it was, as the story I was told as a child goes, uh, she went into a seizure. And I'm just going to call it an epileptic seizure because I don't think it was a vision. She went into a seizure, and when she came to, um, she just started saying, hey, I went to heaven. Jesus showed me the streets of gold, and I picked flowers that will never fade. Things that they'd already been talking about, probably, I'm guessing, in that sermon that day. Now, the Millerites, the precursor to the Seventh-day Adventists, were primed to look for a prophet. Because in the book of Joel it says, in the last days your young men shall see visions and your old men will dream dreams. And so necessarily before the second coming there must be a prophet. And they were primed to look for that. Because, I mean, yeah, prophecy said Jesus is coming. Now it's part of being human. We believe what we want to believe. We see what we want to see. Um, we choose to believe what we believe, even if it's demonstrably untrue. And some of the early Adventists were so sure there was going to be a prophet that epileptic girl, they didn't know anything about epilepsy, must be a prophet. She came to talking about heaven. She must necessarily be a prophet. I have a problem with prophecy in general. So let's sidestep again and talk about false prophets. Now, we may agree, we may disagree on who the true prophets are or are not, but we can all agree on who a false prophet is. That the example I'm going to use is Harold Camping, and everybody seems to know that Harold Camping is a false prophet. Okay? So what are the characteristics of Harold Camping's prophecies? Well, for one, he never prophesied 3,500 years in the future because his audience would be dead and gone, and people today don't care what's going to happen 3,500 years in the future. We want to know what's going to happen today, or even within the foreseeable future, a month from now, a year from now, two at the most, the foreseeable future. False prophets, they never predict 5 years in the future. They never predict 50 years in the future, or 100 years, or 1,000 years. Is there any reason to believe that if real prophets exist, then they also will speak to a specific audience about that particular audience's foreseeable future. There may have been some clamor in the 1850s. Please correct me if my history is off. There may have been some clamor at the time for some Sunday laws. Even when I was a boy in Tennessee, you could not buy liquor on Sunday. So there were some Sunday laws at some time, but they obviously have not become national Sunday laws. They never did, and that was a false prophecy. And I think it's wrong for the Adventist church not to move on and say, oops, somebody got it wrong. That's never going to happen. Okay? So now let's go back to the Bible. Now that we've talked about false prophecies, now that we've prophets and the Adventist church and dinged on them long enough, now let's go back to the Bible. Daniel, Amos, Isaiah, Joel, and any of the other prophets, John, none of them prophesied 3,500 years in the future, or 2,000 years in the future, or 1,500 years in the future. None. Zero. It didn't happen. They were speaking to a specific group of people at a specific time in history about specific historical circumstances that somebody thought was wrong. And the prophets came along and said, God told me that eventually, within the foreseeable future, things will change. And if the original intention of the Bible writers was not for 2,000 years from now, we're cherry picking, we are proof texting, we're looking for something that is not there. We are looking for evidence to back up a pre-existing belief. Ellen White was no more prophet than I am. People can say what others want to hear. And if someone says what we want to hear, we pay them. We give them positions of authority or power or status. None of the Bible prophecies apply to 2024. I hope that helps someone. It really helps me now. It makes me a lot more confident of what I am seeing in the world today and what I'm reading. And it's my understanding, and I hope that helps somebody. Thank you.